Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to part 2 of Meal 2, 1A, and we're talking about the Moedim, and we're just coming into part 2 right now. And I just wanted, before we go any further, I wanted to let you know that you can actually be added to this Google Doc, so you can have access to this. So if you're watching this on Facebook, just drop me a message with your email and we can link you into this Google Doc. Or if you're watching this on YouTube right now, actually put a message under this video with your email, and we will add you into this doc as soon as we get that. So over to you, and keep going.
Cool. So as you can see there's a screenshot of Parasha and what we looked at. I just thought that I'd put it in the doc, saves you having to go over, but I mean, you can click on the hyperlink and go have a look anyway. We actually encourage it so that you know where the research is coming from. So let's scroll down. So in brackets, pronounced Parasha, Hebrew for Genesis. So if we now go to Genesis chapter 1, 14 to 15, which is yet another keystone scripture, and this is amazing, this scripture. So the reason I put this in will become eminently clear, as it did to me and to Dawn, and will do to you also. So Genesis 1:14, the fourth day, sun, moon, and stars. Then Yahuwah said, let there be lights in the sky. These lights will separate the day from the night. And here comes one of the most keystone scriptures in the biblical canon. They will be used for signs, to show when special meetings begin, and to show the days and years. So let's just reiterate, they will be used for signs, to show when special meetings begin, and to show the days and years. I get a real good grasp of what it's saying here, because it's talking about signs, the Moedim, the appointed times. So it also goes on to say when special meetings begin. Wow, I wonder what these special meetings are, and I wonder what these signs are. Okay, let's go back to the study, please. Okay, so we scroll down. I've isolated these nuggets in this keystone scripture. So playing it forward to Leviticus 23, we know that Pesach, aka Passover, is marked as the above scripture in Genesis, aka Parasha, tells. These lights will be used for signs, to show when special meetings begin. Therefore, the kicker here is that every Pesach, which falls at evening, aka sunset, on the 14th day of Nisan, is marked with absolute certainty by the first full moon of the Northern Hemisphere spring equinox. So let's click on that first link. No, that's the second one. Yeah. So the first link. So if we go, so that's Nisan 14. This is just reiterating what we showed you before, which happened this year on the 19th of April. So April is the month that is the Gregorian calendar month that the first full moon of the spring equinox happens. How do we know that it happened on this day? On Nisan 14, because the next hyperlink back in the study is going to show us. So let's go to that. Scroll up, please. Keep scrolling. So I'll come back down just so people can see it's the month of April. Come back down. Keep coming. April 2019. Now go up, please. April 2019. So we just looked at that Hebrew calendar, which is the 19th of April, and it's Nisan 14. And there's a full moon. So every single Pesach occurs and is marked by the moon a full moon, not the other way around. And that's what it says in that scripture in Genesis. If we go back to the study, please. It says there, then God said, let there be lights in the sky, talking about the sun, moon, and stars. These lights will separate the days from the nights. They will be used for signs to show when special meetings begin, aka sacred assemblies, and the Moedim, aka the Lord's feasts. So we've already proven this. So let's carry on going down, please. Now, here's the outlier, and this is going to blow you right away. The Great Pyramid of Giza was formerly thought to have only 4 sides. As recently as 1940, when a British Air Force pilot, P. Groves, funny that name, was flying over the pyramid, he happened to notice the concavity and captured it in the now famous photographs. So now you guys can go search for British Air Force pilot P. Groves in the Great Pyramid of Giza. It has been discovered that at the spring equinox and fall equinox, the Great Pyramid of Giza reveals its 8 sides at sunrise. So if you click on that, because I know that people will have been suffering from cognitive dissonance right now because we've been told all these lies about the Great Pyramid of Giza and how it was built by people with copper chisels and stone adzes. If you actually do your research, it's perfect to the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, and pi, as in 3.14, whatever it is recurring. It's not closing. Oh, okay. So here we go. So the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza is square, right? Well, not quite. Despite what you may think about this ancient structure, the Great Pyramid is an 8-sided figure, not a 4-sided figure. Each of the pyramid's 4 sides are evenly split from base to tip by very subtle concave indentions. It is believed that this discovery was made in 1940 by a British Air Force pilot named P. Groves as he was flying over the pyramid. Groves reportedly noticed the strange sight and took a photograph showing shadows that reveal the indentations. Some believe these subtle lines are only visible from above and at dawn and dusk on the spring and autumn equinoxes. So let's go back to the study, please. So it's talking about spring and autumn equinoxes. So if we go back to the moon calendar, which was the 3rd tab. No, you already got it? Okay. So it's your 3rd tab. So if we go back to the moon calendar, the shortest day or the longest day of the year, which is the spring equinox, and not the longest day of the year, but the spring equinox happens usually between the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of April, and all these days are Pesach. So that's just reconfirming what the scripture was saying in Genesis about the moon, the sun, and the stars, the moon in particular, being for signs and for special meetings. And so we know now that Pesach happens on the 14th day of Nisan, which is the 14th day of the 1st month on the Hebrew calendar, which this year fell on the 19th of April 2019, and it is marked by a full moon, and that is the spring equinox Passover, and that is when the Great Pyramid of Giza reveals its 8 sides, not its 4 sides. So you're probably asking, what's the Great Pyramid of Giza got to do with anything? And if you go back to Genesis, it says for signs and for special meetings. Now, we're going to carry on the study. Keep going. Now there's, okay. So the kicker here is that this occurs at Passover, aka Pesach, and usually occurs between the 20th to the 22nd of April. Talking about the 8 sides of the Great Pyramid of Giza being revealed, which is when the festival of unleavened bread is taking place. What's really gonna bake your noodle is the following scripture as recorded at Isaiah chapter 19:19. And this is major. This is real major stuff. Isaiah 19:19, the easy to read version. Oh, that's appropriate for me. At that time, there will be an altar for the Lord in the middle of Egypt. At the border of Egypt, there will be a monument to show honor to the Lord. Now, if you go back and do your research, you'll know that Egypt used to be split into lower and upper Egypt. And that is where the Great Pyramid of Giza sits, on the border. So let's go back. You can do your own research for that. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting. So this is Rima. This is revelatory information. So this is the gift that Yahuwah has blessed me with. And this is where I make the connections between what's still standing from the ancient world and how I correlate scripture to these structures, these monolithic ancient cyclopean architecture that still exist in our day. And as you can see there, I've highlighted that particular verse 19:19. So am I saying that the Great Pyramid of Giza is this altar and pillar or monument to Yahuwah? Yes, I am. And as we continue down, I'll show you why. So we see here that the Great Pyramid of Giza was formerly the altar and pillar of Yahuwah before it was overtaken by the post-flood world governments. Below is the Hebrew to English in the hyperlink, and below that is Revelation 21:1-5, which tells us that the new heaven is being brought down to the new earth so that the new holy city of Jerusalem can be the new center of worship, aka the New Jerusalem. So based on Isaiah 19, Pesach, the full moon, what days the spring equinox falls in, there's too many correlations for it to be coincidence. And as we well know, our God, Yahuwah, is a God of order, and everything he does at an appointed time to show his glory, to reveal to us his glory, who he is, how powerful he is. And these things are way above anything that any fallen angel can do, that any Nephilim, aka demonic spirit, can do, and definitely anything beyond what we can do. I mean, when you draw all the connections and correlate all this information, it is just truly flabbergasting, to say the least. So let's click on Revelation 21. This is just to show you that so once we go through the study material and the study, you can see that where we picked it from. And once we add you girls and guys into the document, then you can go through and click on this stuff. Okay, a new heaven and a new earth. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Wow. So Pete, I was talking to Dawn about this today, how people pay tons of attention to going up to the Shamayim, aka to the heaven, when you pass away. if you're saved, obviously. But here it's telling us, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for your husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne room saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. So what this is telling us is that Yahuwah is bringing heaven to earth. That's what the scripture is clearly telling us. And he's coming to dwell with us on the new earth, because this earth is corrupted. It's been corrupted by the enemy. And how do we know this? Because scripture says that Yahuwah is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, which means he is the same forever. So what did he create in Genesis? The Garden of Eden. Why did he create that? So that he could dwell with us. So then it should come as no surprise that his end game, never mind the Avengers end game, his end game is to establish the new Jerusalem, the new holy city here on earth, so that he can come down and dwell with us, which is what he originally intended in the first place. So if we go back to the study, please.
Okay, that's 15 minutes.
That's 15 minutes. Okay, cool. I'm going to have some dinner.
All right, guys, we'll come back in part 3.